apart from nationalising the railways, they don't really have any kind of structural reforms that they actually want to get through. He just says things that he thinks people want to hear because, again, all he cares about is winning power. Keir Starmer could kick a puppy live on TV, and these people would just go, well, it's got to get the Tories. If you want team sports, go and watch the World Cup and leave the politics to the adults. How far would he have to go before the Liberals would allow you to even voice criticism? Not even say that you won't vote for him, but even voice the criticism. So when you look at, for example, the American election in 2020, right? There was a really large contingent of Bernie or busters who were literally saying, I refuse to vote for Joe Biden if Bernie Sanders does not win the nomination for being the president of the United States to represent the Democratic Party, right? And for the entirety of that period, the one thing I was saying was, no, you have to vote for Joe Biden. I don't care if you dislike him, right? Like, to the point at which they were saying, oh, hang on, Joe Biden sexually assaulted Tara Reid. And I'm like, Donald Trump also sexually assaulted a bunch of people, right? Your choice is two different people who've engaged in lots of sexual assault. Choose the one with has a climate policy. Like, it was a very simple distinction for me. And I think the people who moralized around voting too much, or so much so that they refused to do the basic utilitarian calculus that's involved to vote for Joe Biden over Donald Trump, were being very, very stupid. Because at the end of the day, the Republican Party in the United States, they represent, they literally represent the harbingers of the end of the world, right? These people are like absolutely, the Republican Party are completely psychotic. But when you look at the UK and you see the difference between the Labour Party and the Conservative Party, policy-wise under Keir Starmer, right? Especially now that Rishi Sunak's kind of turned tail from what they had under Liz Truss with regards to at least climate policy, because it seems like the big marquee policy from the Labour Party at the moment is their issues with climate, right? They're not quite calling it a Green New Deal because it's not a Green New Deal, but it should be. They've clearly focused on, using the energy crisis to be able to agitate for some kind of green policy. That's their flagship thing. But now the Tories have kind of turned tack on that, right? When it came to the budget, when we looked at that, there was some amounts of redistribution. But then again, you have Keir Starmer on the other side and Rachel Reeves, who say they're going to be allying themselves or, shoehorning their own policy platform into this framing of the £50 billion black hole that I've talked about being a bunch of bollocks on my channel already. And when they have apart from nationalising the railways, they don't really have any kind of structural reforms that they actually want to get through. It would essentially be the same kind of, kind of managerial, centrist politics that you were getting from Jeremy Hunt. And there are plenty of people on the right who are saying the same things. Like, what is the difference now between Jeremy Hunt and a theoretical Rachel Reeves, right? Insofar as, like, what Rachel Reeves says, like, as far as policy goes, what else do we get? Like, non-dom tax status, making private schools non-charitable, right? Like, that's it. As far as taxation policy goes, it's not going to be that different. And when they've accepted the OBR's framing of the £50 billion black hole, suddenly like, well, okay, we're literally staring down the barrel of two austerity parties at this point. Reminds me of what Thatcher said about New Labour being her greatest victory. Well, 100%, right? I mean, and I've mentioned in one of the last segments that a bunch of the problems that we have, the housing crisis being one of them, and also, the failure of class politics in this country, is down to Blairism. Now, I think that Blair is a better leader than Keir Starmer, and also I think his policy platform is better than Keir Starmer's as well, right? I think that Blair is a better politician and a better leader, and who has a better... Yeah, at least he had some kind of vision, right? At least he wanted to do something. He wanted things he had to change. Whereas Keir Starmer, even in interviews with Keir Starmer, all he'll do is will say stuff like, "Well, I just want to focus on winning. I don't really care about what I do with my power. I just want to be able to win," right? And the issue is, so let me have a look. Where was it? It was Owen Jones was on Twitter, and saying here, look, no matter how much it upsets his tedious and gaslighting fan club, he ran the most dishonest campaign for leadership of a major political party in British history. Keir Starmer isn't just a bad social democrat, he's a bad liberal, but his fan club don't care about the substance of politics. For them, politics is a vibe. They think he's one of them, so nothing else really matters. And it kind of comes into, right, there's this kind of a liberal authoritarianism. This happens a lot. This happened a lot when we're talking about MP selection processes. I did a segment on that previously. So, for example, when they were removing people from the long list, essentially for being too left wing and finding frivolous reasons with which to exclude them. And when I brought this up with liberals on Twitter, they were just like, "Well, no, we have a duty to the public to give them good candidates." I'm like, so you're trying to tell me that you think that you should be able to subvert democracy because you believe that your understanding of what makes a good candidate is better than everybody else's, right? It's the same shit that you get from people who say that all stupid people shouldn't be able to vote. Or the same people who say, Brexit's really bad, so we have to overturn democracy to be able to do it rather than gain any compromise, right? I've spent far too much time talking about how Remain has bungled their bid for further European integration post-Brexit, which, to be fair, we do need, right? We do need to be able to either rejoin the single market customs union, EFTA, Swiss-style arrangement, what have you, whatever, right? We need something like to deal with the economic problems that we have right now. But obviously that's been bungled by Remainers. So for once, actually, Keir Starmer I will give Keir Starmer a free pass on something like European integration when he's basically been boxed into a corner by a failure of the Liberals. The Liberals who put them into the position that he was in the first place, remember? There's always the Liberals the FBP types, who are the people who refuse to hear even like the mildest criticism of Keir Starmer. But I digress. But people are just like, well, hang on a minute, let's have a look at the actual policy platform that he supports. And it stands to reason. It stands to reason the fact that he's doing so much right-wing posturing. Covenant Gardens, thank you for the follow. Welcome to the Justice stream. I hope you're doing well, right? It stands to reason that Keir Starmer is posturing so right-wing because he knows that no matter what he says, no matter how rancid it is, how right-wing it is, how much how much of a dog whistle it is to racists in the country, right? He can say it forever, and people refuse to criticize him. Like, look, I put this TikTok up. Let me see if it's actually going to come on stream. If I click on it, let me find this one. There we go. Here, yeah.
Walk round and round the problem and maybe very eloquent and gives a fantastic speech. But the number of people who give fantastic speeches describing the same problem without actually fixing it drives me up the wall.
I'm going to have an aneurysm. That is literally what you do, Keir. We've spent 2 years asking you to try and tell us how you're going to solve problems, and all you do is give us platitudes. But we had a previous administration who literally said, these are the problems in society. These are the policies that we have to fix, and we need to fundamentally change the economic system to make it better for people, and this is how we'll do it, and this is why it's going to benefit people. And then you've taken over and just gone, we'll do the good things, but not the bad things.
But what I can't stand,
like, I posted that on TikTok, and the comments were just they were buck wild, right? How are you helping Labour get into power? Stop it and support. And I'm like, hang on a minute. If you won't even accept internal criticism, if you won't even accept internal criticism of the Labour Party, right, then all you're just saying, right, is that you think that lying is either there's two things, right? Especially when it comes to abandoning the pledges. Either you believe that he was lying to the Labour electorate who put him in to make him leader in the first place, or you believe he's lying to the general public and he's going to change course after the election. I've heard that take from so many Liberals who say that, oh, he's just saying stuff that he thinks will get him elected and then he's going to turn course once he gets elected, right? And I'm like, so you think it's acceptable to lie to the electorate as well? Like, and they will flip-flop between these two positions. Like, it is both okay to lie to the left as well as also of the party, as well as also then feature lying to the electorate as well afterwards. Like, in what world do you think he's ever going to say anything or have any kind of policy to appeal to you, to appeal to us specifically, if you refuse? Not even, this is even about voting anymore. This is about just having whether or not you actually support people or not. It's about it's just about whether or not you field criticism of him on the internet. So, like, you can't even say he's done a bad thing, or without people jumping down your throat and saying, well, you literally are not allowed in any form to criticize him at all, in case it might ruin his chance of winning, right? Like, hang on a minute. But his job is to get elected. I don't care how he does it. The Tories are the problem. This is football team politics. Like, if you want football team politics, go. If you want team sports, go and watch the World Cup and leave the politics to the adults who know what the fuck that we're talking about. Like, it's why are the Tories the problem, though, right? Look a little bit deeper into the points that you're making. Like, if you think that the Tories are the problem, there must be a reason why you think they're the problem, which, to anyone who is, not, has a temperature that is at least higher than the internal temperature of their refrigerator, right? They will know, well, the Tories are bad because they have bad policies, because when they are in power, they do bad things with it, right? Okay, that's a starting point. So if Keir Starmer is just saying that he will do the same things that the Tories are doing, then it is actually not about team sports, and it is about the effective utility of the policy platform that people are purporting to support. And that's why I'm criticising him. But these people are so fucking brain-addled by this team response mentality. They would literally they would vote for fucking, like, Fred West if he wore a red rosette. That's literally how far they would go. Keir Starmer could kick a puppy live on TV, and these people would just go, well, I've got to get the Tories out. I'm like, what is this mindset? He's in opposition. If he announced really detailed plans, the Tories would pinch them, as they have done already. If your policy platform as the Labour leader, right, if your policy platform is so right-wing that the Tories can adopt it, then first of all, brilliant, you've got the policy is now in place now, fantastic. If it's a good policy and the Tories have done it, then that's better for everybody. Like, effective utility, we got the policy through because we told the Tories to do it and they did it, brilliant. Or, if it's so right-wing that the Tories are willing to adopt it because it fits within their purview of their ideology, then what have you gotten rid of the Tories for? If all the Keir is going to do when he's in power is implement more Tory policies, that is literally the same as if the Tories did it. Just because the person who's done the policy wears a red rosette, it does not make the policy good. I can't stress this enough, Liberals, that it's just team sports, and it's incredibly frustrating. There's no point Keir showing all his cards long before an election, otherwise the Tory will just use his ideas against him. And I'm like, I'm not even, in this particular TikTok, I didn't even ask for policies. I asked for vision. I asked for an idea of the way in which you solve a problem. But he's so committed to this, well, I'm pragmatic, not ideological, even though that's a nonsense statement that doesn't make sense, because your ideology will inform what you view as being pragmatic, right? He's so wedded to this idea that he refuses to commit to a specific policy platform, but at least, right, have a rough idea of how you think that you want to be able to build something in the future. And I guess saying things like, we believe growth is coming from the bottom up, I think that's a reasonable thing to say, but we need more than this. We can't, especially when people like Keir Starmer and Wes Streeting and Rachel Reeves and Lisa Nandy and all that lot, Angela Rayner as well, for fuck's sake, right? The only person on the front bench I even like, apart from maybe Ed Miliband, going on TV and saying, no, we would refuse to give people pay rises, or we refuse to explicitly back strike action. Like, we support people's right to strike. Do we actually back them when they do engage in the industrial action? Oh no, we'll answer the question that we didn't want to. Missed opportunities are abundant. Exactly. There's so many easy wins. Like, for example, when we look at nationalisation, for example. Like, when you look at the energy crisis, and you could literally, with the energy crisis is entirely the fault of Margaret Thatcher, because she privatised the North Sea oil instead of nationalising it, right? If we had nationalised North Sea oil, we wouldn't have to pay global wholesale prices for it. Like, you could literally just say that right now and say, we are in these problems, these problems have existed because of policies of the Conservative Party they explicitly pushed, right? You don't even have to say how you'd fix it, but you can clearly identify the problem that it is. But he can't say that, can he? He can't say that, because then he's not being neoliberal enough. He can't critique neoliberalism, which we should be doing as the fucking Labour Party. Not the Capital Party, the Labour Party. Him coming up on the stage for the CBI saying, oh, I'm pro-business. Like, if you want to be pro-business, why don't you join the fucking Liberal Democrats? And he can't even form a coherent worldview. He just says things that he thinks people want to hear, because, again, all he cares about is winning power. And the other thing that people did in response to this TikTok that I posted is they kept saying, oh, well, Corbyn is bad because XYZ reasons. He's an anti-Semite. He's a national security risk. I did not say Jeremy Corbyn's name once in that TikTok. Not a single time did I mention Jeremy Corbyn's name. I said the previous administration. It's almost like I actually care about policy and I don't care about personalities, which seems to be the only thing that these people seem to care about is personality. They do treat, from all the people who call themselves the adults in the room, who treat politics like the fucking X Factor, whenever you mention some of the shortcomings of the policy platform that's been laid out by Keir Starmer, they go, oh, well, something, jam man Jeremy Corbyn. Like, did I mention Jeremy Corbyn at the clip? Did Jeremy Corbyn even write any of the policies in the 2019 manifesto? It was mostly Richard Murphy and John McDonnell, right? I've said many times on this channel that I prefer John McDonnell to Jeremy Corbyn as a politician at the very least, right? Like, I prefer Corbyn probably as a person, but as the person who's an effective politician, I think John McDonnell is better. And he is someone who actually put forward the policies that were in the manifesto that were so good, right? But these people, genuinely, their brain has been broken by whether it be like smears from the mainstream media or all the kind of press narratives, or the fact that all they think about is personalities when it comes to politics because they're idiots. And again, just basically children. These people are basically children, right? Who refuse to understand the effective utility of a policy platform. And as you've said, I think I think someone mentioned it in chat, in that, when you have the Labour Party now being, trying to court the votes of, of TERFs and shit like that, and refusing to back stuff like basic rights for trans people, who probably wouldn't. If Rishi Sunak came back and actually removed the trans protections in the Equality Act, which he's been threatening to do, I genuinely don't think that Keir Starmer would go back on that, right? Because again, he doesn't care how many of our lives that he ruins. He just wants to win. You voted for Keir in the leadership election. Did I want to? No. But his leadership election platform aligned well enough with me that I voted for him because Corbynism was rejected at the ballot box. What a big mistake that was. And I don't blame you at all, Ling Ling. Not in the slightest, right? Like, and that's the issue. That's what Owen Jones was pointing out in the tweet that you mentioned earlier, and how it was the most dishonest campaign for the leadership of a major political party in British history, right? And that's why he's happy to be able to out there be accepting awards from The Sun and The Spectator, getting praised for his immigration rhetoric from Nigel Farage, right? Like, how far would he have to go before the Liberals would allow you to even criticise him, to even voice criticism? Not even say that you won't vote for him, but to even voice the criticism from someone who's been given the Farage boost, who's been given who's having his platform being, like, his platform is being given the boost by Nigel Farage. Wes Streeting as health secretary is being praised by the fucking Spectator and also by fucking the Institute of Economic Affairs for his view on NHS reform. Like, the NHS is not safe with Wes fucking Streeting. He has to, like, it's a man who's been taking donations from the private healthcare industry. And then whenever and like, even saying that Keir Starmer is dishonest, even saying that his platform isn't good, right? Even asking him for policies, and then the Liberals literally that all of the toys get thrown out of the pram because you're saying a bad thing about the Red Team. You're being critical of the Red Team, and the Red Team are the good teams. You're not allowed to say bad things about the Red Team, and that's the only place their mind occupies in all of this. It's absolutely maddening. Now, what I will say, in response to this tweet by Owen Jones, a lot of people have been saying in the replies, but you'll still vote for him. You'll still vote for Keir Starmer. What would it take for you to not vote for Keir Starmer, right? Even as someone who's being critical of him, what would it take you to say no to voting for him? Now, I think it's difficult. It's really difficult because I don't want to. I don't want to vote for the Labour Party under Keir Starmer because I think that them in government would be a bad thing. Because I think the problems in our economy are so ingrained and so fundamental that we do need a root and branch overhaul. And, even if Labour under Keir Starmer in power for 10 years, things would get worse, would get too much worse too quickly. And there wouldn't be the actual change that we need because he'd be too managerial, right? I think that all the problems that need fixing would not get fixed quick enough. And we would then have to deal with how many years of Keir Starmer followed by how many years of whatever party supersedes him, and then another Labour Party platform to then come back from it, right? So what we're looking 15 years minimum down the line to be able to actually get the transformative change that we need to fix our economy. But, the other question is, am I in a position am I in a position to want to try and do that? And I'm probably not in a position to try and do that. Like, the NHS is already on its knees, but then again, will Wes Streeting fix it? I don't know, right? But how much more Tory government can we even put up with? And there's also the other hand that it's just like, I'm not just voting Labour isn't just voting for Keir Starmer, right? Like, I really like everyone in my CLP. My councillors are excellent. If one of my councillors all of my councillors would be great MPs. Greg Marshall, who ran in 2019 and 2017, would be a fantastic MP, probably an SUG member as well. I'd love to vote for him, and I wouldn't want to let him down because I disagree so much with the policy platform that's being laid out by the Labour top brass, when that's going to hurt the electoral chances of people on the lower end of the scale who I really want to see in government, right? So I probably would still vote for Labour. I probably still vote for Labour if just for my local MP, right? Because politics is not just Westminster; it is also local. I think people forget about that a lot. But it's just, even from my position, who creates so much content criticising the Conservative Party, who, as I've said on plenty of times, probably will still vote for the Labour Party in the end anyway. And even me and Owen Jones, who are the people who have been beaten down so much that we will vote for someone who literally doesn't give a shit about either of us. For whatever reason, whatever utilitarian calculus we've done, even we still get hate from the agrocentrists for having the gall to maybe say that Keir Starmer isn't perfect. The only thing you can hope for is that we use the time to build more progressive consensus in local CLPs, but sometimes this feels impossible, especially amongst Labour youth. Trying to get any momentum along younger activists is impossible, because again, the younger activists have all left. They've all been beaten to submission by, the bureaucracy at the top of the Labour Party, right? For a party that's supposed to be grassroots as well, the party that's supposed to fight for normal people, for the rights of normal people, to fight for the basic principle, the axiomatic principle of democracy. Democracy in the workplace, democracy in the country, local democracy. And there's all being superseded by a maniacal and power-hungry leader of the opposition who won't devolve anything, who will rig internal elections, who will lie to his own electorate within the party because he's power-hungry and power-mad. Like, even Michael Crick was on Twitter talking about how the MP selection process, which I talked about in a previous segment, was essentially, he called it corrupt internally from Labour, because there was far too much meddling amongst establishment candidates that they were trying to undermine democracy. But Liberals do not care about democracy. They don't care about democracy. They didn't care about democracy in 2016, and they don't care with it in the Labour Party internally. Because they fully believe that everything they believe in is correct, and they should be able to subvert democracy to stop people from doing it. Like, sure, I believe I'm right, and I believe everyone else who disagrees with me is wrong. But at least if I'm democratically outgunned, I will at least say, that's the democratic will of the people. Like, I talked about that with Brexit, for example, which the FBPs all want to fucking overturn. I have zero hope for the future. I really do. And I'm a person who's in a reasonable position. I've got a full-time job with some benefits, and I'm a homeowner, right? Like, I'm in the position where I don't have to care. I don't have to care about what's going to happen in the future, because I'm already in a reasonably settled position. That it's not me that's on the line here, but I'm the one trying to fight to make sure we get the change that we need to turn this country around. But a bunch of middle-class liberal Gen Xers and boomers who think that they have the monopoly on good political opinions will try and overturn democracy to get their own way. And do you think the pandemic has shifted politics a certain direction for the younger voters, though? I mean, I think younger voters will probably turn out for Labour. I think they will. Because again, that's the thing, is that what has Keir Starmer, as leader of the opposition, done for young people? Name me one thing he's done for young people. One thing that he's done for young people, or explicitly said he'll do to help young people. The answer is nothing. He's done nothing to help young people because he knows he doesn't have to bother, because young people won't vote in big numbers, and also will almost certainly vote for the Labour Party. right? Because they have nowhere else to go. Because again, people will refuse to criticize him internally, and therefore there is no scope for him to want to be able to do anything that appeals to this group of people. So why would he? Why would you bother? If you've already got the votes of all the young people, all the ethnic minorities, all of the working class people, right? Why would you not just spend your entire time wanting to try and appease bigots and appease middle class homeowners? Why wouldn't you? But again, like, he's kind of right in that, in saying, like, oh, who else? What the fuck else am I going to do? Where else is my vote going to go? The Green Party, another party that's riddled with transphobia. Like, what the fuck? What even is the point? I think Flying Rodent on Twitter put it best here, right? And just the kind of how the absurdity of the situation, right? My core point is that the sensible moderates have decided that they can and should insult and drive away a significant chunk of the electorate, and it is not just reasonable to expect members of the public to vote for MPs who openly hate them and keep telling the hacks that they do. It's one thing to ask people to vote for, here are the policies you don't like that are the best available option, and another thing entirely to say, you are fucking scum to be relentlessly hounded, fuck you, and I hope I can count on your vote. The latter is psychotic, isn't it? And that's the situation that we're in. We're in the situation where you literally you cannot theoretically withhold your vote. Because if you did, people would absolutely hound you to the ends of the earth for it, right? And that's the kind of position that we're in, where literally, like, Keir Starmer tries to expel us from the party, tries to remove us from shortlists, tries to smear us all as cranks and anti-Semites, so much so that internal Labour Party factions, right? Is it Jacinda Singh Gopal, who's the media officer for Labour to Win, and Wes Streeting in the fucking Telegraph saying, oh, we've expelled all the cranks from the Labour Party, and by cranks he literally means anybody to the left of fucking Pinochet. Like, and they want us to vote for them. And they want us to vote for them, despite the fact that they treat us like, they literally treat us like the fucking, like dirt on the bottom of their shoe. Like, actually, the thread goes on. It is remarkable that this, actively fucking over a big chunk of the public, screaming insults at them as loudly as you can and then demanding their support and calling them names if they don't give it to you, is regarded not only as acceptable behaviour but as properly wise. I mean, it is not like I haven't had lots of people on here saying, we don't want your support, we just want you to fuck off, and that's fine. They're allowed to do that. It's just completely insane to expect people to then put that behaviour aside. Like, and it's the same thing when it comes to the leadership election, right? Where these are the same people who'll say that, or lies are horrendous when Boris Johnson does them in the House. But lies to try and hoodwink the left to gain their votes to win the leadership election, well, that's just politics. That's just politics, mate. Tough being on the wrong end of some good politicking, when it's literally the same thing that they were trying to get angry at Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak for lying to the House about. It's so hypocritical. Just have an axiomatic moral position and stick to it. If they were coming to me and saying, I understand that Keir Starmer lied, I think that it's wrong that he did, but we're stuck with this position now, and then we have to be able to rally around him and support him, I'm like, okay, I get that. I understand your position, even if I would theoretically have some disagreements. I will understand that. Whatever. Okay, sure. I get it. But no, they are the most obnoxious people. The most obnoxious people. But do I want to make people's lives worse by potentially letting in a Conservative government by not working within the effective utility of voting for Starmer just to try and piss off a bunch of middle-class people on Twitter? That's the other hand of it. That's the other side of it, right? But at least the Democratic Party in the United States acknowledges that they have a left flank, right? They try and minimize and they try and run candidates against them to try and stop them from becoming candidates, right? But at least they don't try and expel them. They don't remove them from from long lists for no reason, and they do accept they have to work within them, or at least have some policy that appeals to them, like when you looked at, for example, the marijuana legalization, for example, when you looked at the student debt cancellation, all that kind of stuff, right? At least the Democratic Party at least looks at this segment of people and goes, yes, we dislike them, they don't stand for what we stand for, but at least that we want to try and win them over to try and get them to vote for us the next election. And this is the Democratic Party. This is a bourgeois party. This is the party that gets donated to by fucking Warren Buffett, who has been voted for by Elon Musk every year up until the current year. Even they will happily throw the bone to the left every so often. The Labour Party is the party of the trade unions. It's the party of the left. It is the historic union of social democrats and democratic socialists to try and build a proper working class movement in this country. And this is the party that refuses to give anything to left wing of the party at all. I'm like, what bizarro world are we living in here where Joe Biden is to the left of Keir Starmer? And he is. Like, I would be remiss in mentioning that there have been some truly dark Brandon moments, right? Thank you for the subscription, Ling Ling Wannabe. Welcome to the No Justice stream. I hope you're really doing well. It's good to have you. That pushes me over hitting my payout goal for November. So that was very timely. And Joe Biden, stuff like trying to pass the PRO Act, right? He may have done badly, but you know, he's at least gesturing towards the left. Do we get any of that from Keir Starmer? No, nothing. And not even nothing. We get active hostility from Keir Starmer and Loto. And all his fucking goons on Twitter. The Starmab Tyling. And then they come out and say, then they want us to vote for them. I'm just like, I'm in such a difficult place. I know, I think I probably will. Again, I don't want to let my local CLP down, because they're great. They're really good. They're really great, right? Is my singular vote going to turn an election? Probably not. But if they don't want to theoretically lose a huge swathe of people's votes come the next election because they refuse to be able to even acknowledge the fact their party should have a left, then, you know, they'll get what they deserve. Or, alternatively, the country will get what it deserves, which is more neoliberalism, more wealth inequality, more declining living standards, and they'll get what they wanted.